And
Oh,
then...
I can feel the pins, but just for a minute, I'm gonna. Yeah, sick. I feel it. I feel like a snake. I'm a sneaky snake. Look at me.
Ooh, there's a fun internet throwback.
Right? That's cool, man. That's very neat, Morgan. Holy crap. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Good that. Welcome to the Deficit Podcast. My name's Adam Aubrey. I'm joined today with Morgan Detling, who is a recent friend of mine and a very talented special effects makeup artist that surprisingly has only done it as a hobby thus far. And that's why I wanted to have him on the show, because with this company, Omnia Theater, we do like to emphasize the role creativity plays in people's lives. And though I've had many people on involving creative careers, I have not had many who specifically keep creativity in the world of their hobby as a therapy or as a muse. So I was very interested in having him on the show, and I'm excited to have him here. He's brought a few pieces to show and tell for us, so this will be a cool, different sort of format where we're going to be able to check out some of his masks and costumes. And without further ado, Morgan Detling. Morgan, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very excited. It's my first forays into actually talking about stuff that I make, so that's a fun intro.
That surprises me, honestly. Like when I saw
all.
the stuff that you do, I was very surprised that you haven't um gone out a bit more with promotion or like trying to, do it with some like indie movie artist or something, because some of the stuff really is pretty film grade. I don't know if the viewers, if you're looking at this, we got this wicked little headpiece here. I think we're gonna ask about this first, but before we get into the show and tell, actually, I just want to know a little bit more about you. Why don't you tell me where you came from? What was Morgan like? Last few years of high school, getting out. What were the dreams? What kind of a kid were you?
Sure, just a single mom, works 2 jobs, loves her kids, never stops. No. It's from a small little town up north, kind of half between a big city of like 10,000 people and farmland with no indoor plumbing. So
Nice.
Got out of there pretty quick.
Oh, yeah?
The little homosexual child in farmland didn't really do very well. So 2 weeks after high school had furniture, I had dishes, I was packed up and ready to go and moved to a different city.
Wow.
Made the mistake of moving around Alberta for multiple years, but eventually found my way to Vancouver and have been planted here for a little while, and it's a much more rewarding city.
Cool. What city was it that you were in before, or that little farm town?
It's called Worsley, Alberta.
Worsley, Alberta?
Yeah, a population of 101.
Oh my, that is a very small town.
Very. It
like
used
a
to be
village.
used to be 102, and then Ethel died, and they had to go out and repaint the sign. Yeah, not a whole lot to do out there when it's just you and farmland.
I bet. Is that Did you find yourself watching a lot of films and things like that? I'd assume something like that, because like if you're from
Absolutely.
a small town and you somehow got into special effects makeup, there must have been some kind of external influence there. Hey.
Oh, 100%. I was classic little kid without too many friends, where I would just like watch movies constantly.
Wicked.
That Walmart $5 DVD bin was my best friend. I was just kind of loved, I guess, movies in general, and just the more visually interesting, the better.
Yeah.
And just because having no idea about how any of that kind of stuff was made, it's always just fascinating to see.
Yeah, it was always very interesting. I grew up on science fiction a lot too. Like I was a Trekkie kid and a Star Wars kid. Pretty much anything sci-fi. But I used to spend my Thursday nights as a kid. They always had a Star Trek Voyager and Enterprise on the Space Channel. My dad had literally was milking cookies in Star Trek, and then following Star Trek was Stargate. Just ended up being a great marathon. So which films would you say, what was the first one you watched where you were like, whoa, I want to do that?
Honestly, probably something like Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh,
Something like that. Just, I believe that's one with just the freaky, like,
yeah.
the hand thing. And I was just like,
I forgot about
what is
Pan's
that?
Labyrinth. That was a wild movie.
I remember nothing about the plot, but
Yeah.
visually that is stuck in my brain for a very long time.
Yeah, That's the little hand-eye guy. Well, he
Yeah,
wasn't
that
so little. He
weird.
was actually quite large.
Yeah, he was massive and freaky looking. I can't remember if that was that Doug Jones as well. He might have been the character actor who I love.
Oh,
Is
yeah?
in like just oh god, so many things like Shape of Water. He was the uh, Billy Butcherson in Hocus Pocus. He was like just a huge character actor. There's always in full prosthetics.
He's a monster actor.
Yeah, 100%.
Very
I was like,
cool.
that looks like the coolest job.
That's awesome. Yeah,
To me.
that
Yeah.
I always imagine that'd be sick. Like Andy Serkis, like he always does
Hmm.
he was the like Gollum and stuff, right? Smeagol. But
Yeah.
this Dave Jones guy, did he do was he in Hellboy as well? By chance, do you know?
Oh, don't know off the top of my head. He's been one of those people that's just you never know his face, but he's been in so many
Yeah.
things. And yeah, just the ones that I remember seeing. Yeah, Hocus Pocus is one of my favorite movies
Cool.
growing up. So that one was just like, who are these people?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so fun. Yeah, so one of the only reasons I kind of picked up on the name.
So science fiction or fantasy, which one do you tend to lean towards more?
Ooh, probably science fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that's like just close enough tethered to reality just
Yeah.
makes far more interesting. Where it's fantasy, it's fully open for interpretation. You can do whatever, and that can be impressive in and of itself, just pure imagination.
Yeah, yeah,
But science fiction, there's something that sticks with you because it's a little spooky. You're like, ooh, maybe.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Someday. You
Yeah.
know. It could be like that's what I liked about Star Trek too, is like they're all out there journeying, like exploring the galaxy, learning about like the other species that we're starting to discover, and you think about it, and I think the timeline in Star Trek is only supposed to be like a few hundred years ahead of us.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's kind of inspiring. You kind of think like, wow, we could be very close to that exact thing soon, and it seems like it's coming closer and closer every day. Like, I mean, we're talking about going to Mars now. Elon Musk has like a rocket ship that's gonna go there, and you're
Mhm.
just wondering like, are we gonna find them? Are the Martians gonna show up? Are they gonna like actually reveal themselves to us, or are they just gonna go hide underground or something?
I mean, truly, do they want to?
Yeah, I
Like,
know. Yeah,
have they been passively watching this planet and being like, I'm good?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Oh fuck, the humans got space travel now. God damn it! Everyone go hide. Like, just we're probably like watched by if they are around and they've been watching us. We're probably just like the shit show of the galaxy. Just like that irritating drunken friend that always comes to the parties and gets too wasted, ends up starting fights, and like, fuck, he's here. God damn it! Like,
they're the U.S. to the rest of the world.
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Just,
very much.
What
yeah.
is going on over there?
Yeah.
Like, I have no interest in being a part of it, but I will watch it intently. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing about America, right? You love to like, especially a lot of the Canadian guys that I know, but which is pretty much everybody. It's always like, you know, America, it looks so crazy and insane and like wondrous, but I'd never live there. It's like, you know, it just seems like a fucking, you go to one coast and it's like just pandemonium, and you go to the other coast and it's pandemonium of a whole different variety, and there just doesn't seem to be any order, I guess, there anywhere.
Truly. I mean, I think it's George Carlin quote, I believe, is one of my favorites. Like, if you're born in this world, you get a ticket to the freak show. If you're born in America, you get a front row seat. And truly, that's how I feel about the U.S. Like, it's just, I need to keep a healthy distance. at
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
times.
Seems like it'd be a pretty all-encompassing life when you become an American. It like people just like they only see themselves as Americans. They don't see the rest of the world.
Oh,
I'm not trying to
100%.
generalize too much in case there's anybody in the States who will be watching this. I do love you, but it's just a confusing thing you guys have going on down there. So, which one of your favorite, like, series? I guess let me rephrase that. Which monster was the first one you saw where you're like that's a like you said Pan's Labyrinth, the eye guy, right? But like as far as like science fiction goes versus fantasy, when you look at science fiction, which ones were the big ones for you?
Oh, honestly, it's just a collaboration of a bunch of stuff. I feel like my memory in general is just so terrible.
Yeah.
So it's more of just like, oh yeah, that was interesting. Oh, that's kind of cool too, and then forget about it immediately. Honestly, exact opposite of what I just said of liking science fiction more. On the fantasy realm, Lord of the Rings was a huge one of that, of just seeing the really, really cool integration of subtle special effects, you know, like
Yeah.
elves having ears,
Mhm.
to things like the orcs. And then
Oh,
just
they were so
the
good. They're so good at making them so fucking
they're
ugly.
they're so good. And
Yeah.
I love that. Things that are just grotesque to where they're interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. But knowing obviously you go on about Lord of the Rings for so long, just production wise, they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's in its own. Peter Jackson's insane, but the orcs specifically, they had so many of them made, and they insisted that every one of them was individual, so that they all looked like a race, and none of them were the same.
That's so
And
neat.
just all those like panning shots across of just they all look so weird, and but with this individuality to them,
Yeah.
that I was just like, what the hell am I looking at? Like,
They
and I just found that fascinating.
It was really neat, like, and like quite the venture they took on too. Like, that's a big task. Like, I bet you each one of those people probably took somewhere between a minimum of 6 hours for like the light makeup orcs, if you even have light makeup orcs, right? Like, it's
Oh
fucking
yeah,
nuts. I've worked on a few shows out here in Vancouver, and like, I can't name names, but one of them did have there was a period of the season where there was a lot of special effects makeup. People had like fungus growing off of them. It was some kind of like cursed mushroom that was like taking over people. It was not that last one with
The
Pedro
Last
Pascal.
of Us.
It wasn't that one. No, it was a different one. They had like real mushrooms like growing on. I guess they did in that show too, but it was at that time I was working as a production assistant, and we had to be. I was working monitoring the base camps, like the circus they called it, and I had to be there 5 hours before crew call, like before everyone else starts, because they had to start the makeup on these people that early in the morning. So I'd be there like 3:30 a.m. for an 8:30 a.m. start for the day, and I'd see these people go in, and they'd come out exhausted, but just wild. Like, they have like literal mushrooms growing off of their face, and like their skin is getting all crackly, and like there's like moss coming out of their head and stuff. Just a wild thing to see, but I didn't realize how long it would have taken. So when you talk about
oh yeah.
how if every orc in Lord of the Rings was individual, that must have been crazy.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were pre-made. I believe it was Weta Workshops, New Zealand, that made them.
Yeah, it was. I went there when I was in New
Oh,
Zealand.
nice.
It was really
I
cool. Yeah.
have wanted to, so that's 100% on my list. when I
Oh,
go to
you
New
have to
Zealand.
go. It's super cool. Yeah, there's
Oh.
stuff there that you don't even know that they worked on, and it's like
100%. Just the amount of work that went into those is insane. Just like
Yeah.
putting personal descriptions on the inside of clothing and like
Yeah.
stuff that would never see camera, but they were like, no, we need it for character work. So here's hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of work that you have to do extra that'll never be seen on camera. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, I believe a lot of them were like made like as masks to be put on. It was like the hero prop type ones that were prosthetics because they need to move, like some of the main ones that were talking and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. And those, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, like famously Jim Carrey like never wanted to do a Grinch ever again because he had to sit there for it was like 16 hours to be put
Yeah.
up in, because it was all individual prosthetics because it's Jim Carrey and you need to be able to move. And he was like, he trained in like torture tactics or something like that to be able to sit through it because he hated it so much.
Yeah,
So it's
I
like
remember reading
great
about
industry.
that, or I saw that it was a YouTube doc or something. But yeah, fucking apparently it was like just a grueling task. I don't know if I could ever sit still that long. Like, even on these podcasts, like we make it about 2 hours, but I'm constantly shifting around and like moving. I don't like stillness. Maybe that's a problem.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. What, like, this guy here?
What's
What?
this weird little thing sitting on the table?
Yeah, what is this? Like, what was your idea with this one?
Just a Halloween costume.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
have any, like, did any movies come to mind when, like, Pan's Labyrinth? I could kind of see something like that being involved here, but this also looks like, I don't know. I'm trying to put my finger on it. I can't quite figure it out.
Honestly, a lot of them are just. I have one concept that I want this, and then just try to build stuff around it, and it kind of just goes wild. So I feel like for Halloween, for me, it's the most wonderful time of the year
Yeah.
because it's just one of the few times, if any, that it's socially acceptable to be as extra as you want.
Yeah.
So like weird stuff like this, you can wear, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and not like, what is that psycho doing on the train? Like,
Yeah.
it's it's like you get kind of carte
It's
blanche
the only
that way.
time you don't have to be going to Comic-Con to dress that to the nines, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not ventured into Comic-Con. I feel like once I do, that'll be a dangerous space for me.
Yeah. Well, have you been to the Fan Expo out here yet?
No, I have not.
It's coming in February. You have to go. It's fucking amazing. I've gone the last 4 years, and it's fucking incredible. They always have, like, the first one we went to was way bigger, and then COVID hit, so they've been kind of building the momentum back up.
Fair.
But yeah, they have, like, all kinds of cosplayers, and like they had a steampunks bazaar, like a whole section of it was cornered off for like leathersmiths and brass workers who like do like Victorian era steampunk
Oh,
outfits and
cool.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, and lots of special effects, makeup, handmade costumes. Yeah, do yourself a favor, get a ticket. It's fucking really neat. It's so fun.
Oh, yeah, I feel like I definitely need to because it very much encompasses a lot of the stuff that I enjoy doing.
Oh,
I'm just a person who
absolutely.
loves to just collect skill sets. Because like, I want to know how to do that, so I'll just like figure it out.
Yeah, they have a
So,
whole. There's workshops all through it. Like you can like they've on the schedule. They rent out like rooms all through the convention center where you can go in for like workshops on how to do like building
oh,
chess
cool.
pieces or like building weapons and
Hmm.
all this stuff. Yeah, it's really neat. I always get there and I'm always like, I want to go do this, and then my ADHD kicks in and I just end up like wandering aimlessly for like 8 hours, just like looking at everything.
100%. That made
Yeah.
me too.
So, do you think this could fit on my head? Could I try this?
Oh, you could see,
I mean,
yeah.
I got a pretty big noggin though.
Honestly, I think mine's kind of small.
What do you
Uh,
call it?
I'm just a headpiece.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know. I built it on like a cast that I have of my own head, so it's probably and latex does
Oh
shrink,
yeah,
so it's
yeah.
probably
I
really
am very. I have far too large of a noggin. Why don't you put it on for a second? I want to see what this. I saw the picture on
sure.
Instagram and it was really sick.
Let's see.
You guys watching this, you should check out his gram. He's got some fucking amazing costumes, and the one that goes with this mask. That is so. That looks so. That is awesome.
Not spooky at all.
No, not spooky. No, no. It looks inquisitive almost. Honestly, like the way the eyes work, it almost looks like it's like a studious expression, like it's like observing. in,
Right,
like,
that's kind of what I was going for. Just wide-eyed and curious. You know?
Yeah. So what kind of process goes into making these? What is the?
Oh, here, I'll hand it back to you. It's honestly, it's kind of different for everyone. I'm very much I have an end goal in mind and have to figure out how to reverse engineer make it. So
Really?
yeah, so this one you can look on the inside because it's very much made for me. The inside never looks pretty. You
Yeah.
just got to make the outside look presentable.
Got
So
like some foam in there.
yeah, so I have a face cast of myself. So I basically just used wire that you can kind of see in there, and then just did the shape. I kind of want to make it look kind of like a spider web-esque shape as part of the head.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so I just used that, and then it's just spray insulation foam.
Really?
Oh, yeah, all of that yellow stuff you see
That's
on the
what.
inside there. It's just like expanding spray insulation foam.
Oh
That
yeah.
if you get the right ones, they're super lightweight. So you can wear it on your head, and it's not going to be super heavy to be wearing all night. And you can kind of mold them. So if you like spray them down with water, it kind of makes a film on the outside of it, and then you leave it for like a few minutes where it just starts to set up, and then you just kind of mold it like
Like a clay
like a
almost.
clay, kind of like a really, really soft clay, and just kind of mold it into the shape you want. And then
Wow.
that gives kind of the base shape. And then I just make like a latex and flour paste, basically. Like I said, really cheap materials for the most part. I think total to make that, I probably spent like $15.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Dude, you're like definitely cut out for the cosplay scene. Like if people could know how to do that, like to make something like this for, you said $15 is what you
Yeah.
got the materials
Around there,
for?
it's like $10 can of spray foam and some latex.
Fucking wild. That would be, yeah, that's something you need to share with the world. They need to, I know a lot of people who do cosplay and like they are very much into like being able to build something on a budget, because it's not like we all have a fucking multi-million-dollar fucking Hollywood studio behind us, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You get
That's really
to
neat.
forced to be a little creative when you're on a budget. And
Yeah.
I feel like
And you said these ridges, are these the wire you were talking about?
so those are built up. So the wire is kind of more for the structure to build off of, to be able to hold that shape, to build the foam and everything on.
Okay.
But the ridges, yeah, are just made with the foam and then the latex, just to kind of accentuate them. But the wire is kind of underneath the whole structure. Oh, and yeah, those are the eyes. It's a fun mixture of. Have you seen those blank Christmas baubles? You can kind of like make your own Christmas ornaments. They're just one of those split in half, and then I just like heat form them to like squish them into an eye shape.
I
And
love that you sacrificed Christmas for Halloween. That's
every time.
awesome. Great. That's
Every
fucking
time.
awesome.
Halloween will always take precedent over Christmas to me. And then yeah, these top eyes are just those really shitty looking plastic eyeballs you get for
Oh, really?
Halloween. Just those that are like cut in half and spray painted.
Nice.
Like I said, it's super cheap stuff. The teeth are just styrofoam. They just kind of shape and cut and paint. Like it's just super cheap stuff.
There's
Just 'cause I'm,
even
like making
tech-
it for me. So
Oh, sorry, Ricardo. I keep smacking the mic. My bad. I'm just very grabby. The texturing on these teeth here, though, is Really cool.
Yeah,
I
I
like
kinda
it.
like it.
It's very well made.
Well, thank you.
Which one do you want to show us next? He's got a few here, so you
Oh.
gotta check these out. And I was trying really hard to get like a full mannequin so we could do a full costume, but unfortunately, I just did not manage to get around to getting the whole thing. So he was kind enough to bring these
Very
headpieces
fair.
and masks over for us.
I feel like you don't just have a full mannequin hanging around.
I know,
Like,
right? It's
what's going
someday.
on? Oh, good.
Oh,
This
there we go.
one was like my last year's Halloween costume. Again, a lot of it's just Halloween because I have an idea of something that I want in my mind.
I like this.
And
This is especially cool because it's actually glowing. That is a real light in there. It's like,
yeah, it just lights up. She has like a little battery pack in it. Yeah, I just had the idea of I just really wanted a headpiece that lit up because I was like, if I'm just going to be as extra as I possibly can,
fuck yeah.
that should include lights.
Yeah.
In my opinion, every cool costume includes lights. To me, so this is the same thing. Literally just the spray insulation film.
Can I handle it?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, on your Instagram, I saw you in this one, and the whole costume that goes with it too. There's like is it like ribbed or something? Like the chest looks very like bony or something, right?
Yeah, so that was just like makeup. So this one was like I built the headpiece and then did like special effects makeup with it. So that one definitely I sat in front of a mirror for 4 hours before to put it all on because it takes a long time.
Yeah, I bet. Holy
but yeah,
shit.
like integrated it so that it came down along the kind of like cheekbones and stuff, and then painted my face and stuff, and then bring out the bones, make it look creepy, and
I am blown away that you've only been doing this as a hobby because, like, frankly, I feel like there's a lot of people who would hire this skill, especially out here. Like, this is really neat, man. So what was there a particular inspiration for this guy when he made this headpiece? Or like the whole costume, I guess?
I purely just wanted something to light up, and I was like, what would fit that description the best of something lit up? I was like, well, if I want to really focus on something light up, I want like a bunch of little things to be coming off of it. And I was like, well, what fits that better than just generic demon?
Yeah.
Like just give you kind of carte blanche to be like just some sort of demon. Then I was like looking through, like just falling down YouTube holes and like Pinterest and whatever. And just I love people's like fantasy artwork. I think it's just so cool. And coming across things that are just off enough where like you can't, it's not really human proportions. It's not really something normal looking and being like, how can I make that? So I saw a bunch of different options of things with like smoke for hair or like Hades from Hercules, that kind of thing. I was like, well, I can figure it out. Sure.
That is fucking cool. The glowing, and I don't want to make this.
Oh yeah, she's robust. Just toss her down. She's fine.
Okay. Just like
But yeah, I can see on the inside. It's always janky on the inside because nobody sees that part.
Yeah,
when I'm
nobody
wearing
looks on the
them.
inside. That's movie magic, though, right? They're always like hiding the imperfections where you can't see them.
Oh, exactly. You can see on there the wonderful professional way of getting a cast of your head is just to cover it in saran wrap and then put layers of tape over top. And then you just cut it and pull it off and you have a perfect cast of your head.
Really?
And that's what it's built off of. So it's like just a bunch of like green painter's tape and saran wrap on the inside that just makes the base because it's perfectly formed to your head.
You built this off of it. That's cool. So is this the same kind of spray on insulation foam? It feels like squishier almost, but
yeah.
Wow.
It depends on what kind you get. Some of them will harden to like really, really solid, and then some of them are more rigid, like ones for say like windows or something like that that's meant to move like with a house. Right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So they have a bit of flexibility to them for like, weatherproofing around windows and stuff. And those are the ones I like to use because they have a little bit of flexibility to them. So if I'm banging my head into something, it's not going to like snap and break them off.
Very cool.
If you're going to be in a crowded room full of people, you want to have some rigidity to it.
Yeah. Not have it snap off on you or something like that either, or like end up like flopping over.
Exactly.
Very neat. Yeah. So it was like a Hades type inspiration. It was very demonic when I was looking at it. I was like, this is fucking cool. Like the shot he has on his Instagram page is like, it's actually like a video and he's like standing out on a balcony at nighttime, just glowing. And there's like just the perfect amount of wind and it's like blowing these raggy scarves that he's got coming off of the character. It's a really neat one. And the makeup that you do for it too, on top of like the headpieces, but like your actual makeup skills seem to be like really on point for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was one thing actually I went to school for. That's something a very expensive artistic endeavor that I decided to treat myself to.
Oh, you went to school for
A
makeup?
couple years. Yeah, so I went to a Blanche McDonald Center here.
Wow.
I looked at a couple and I'd always done different kind of like makeup stuff. Didn't particularly have an interest in beauty makeup. But their program is just called like global. So global makeup. So it's starting from basic beauty, bridal, that kind of stuff. and goes into body painting and special effects and that kind of stuff. And that's more what I had an interest in. But I was like, me just kind of figuring things out for years. Be like, I want to know how to make this, and there's got to be obviously slightly step up, more professional way. And like I said, very very expensive little venture, but it was fantastic. It was purely just I just want to be as extra as I possibly can for Halloween. So why not spend 17 grand to have someone give me the
Hey,
tools
man,
to do that?
skills that'll last for life, right? They'll pay. I'm sure they've paid themselves off by now. Like that's it's just nice to be able to have that kind of knowledge. I bet, especially if you're passionate about it, right? Like
Absolutely, and having the things like airbrush gun to be able to do stuff like this, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. I would do it again, but
very cool, man. Like
it's a good time. And that's actually what this one actually is for. Was actually for a project for that class.
oh yeah,
For one of my classes, we did one on
the hair cobra.
hair. So I had a roommate at the time who had just gorgeous red hair, and we had to do a model in some sort of structural hair. And me, again, being extra as hell, was like, well, okay, why don't I just build a full sculpture out of hair and then put it on her head? So yeah, this was born out of that. Like I said, it's sat in a box for a little while, so it's not the most prettiest looking thing. But the eyes also lit up because, again, I think everything
should
light up.
That is
they burnt out real quick because I had no idea what I was doing. So I just ripped the headlights out of a toy car and
that's so
hot
wild.
glued them to the inside.
You ripped it, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Look at this, guys. It's a hair cobra. Fucking neat, man. And even in the back, like it's kind of what cobras have on the back side of their head, is those markings, right? Isn't it supposed to be like, oh, I keep knocking this mic. Ricardo is going to kill me. I should have oriented this differently, Ricardo. I'm sorry. But like, yeah, weren't I'm pretty sure like cobras have markings on the back so that it stops predators from attacking them from the back, right?
They're specifically in the shape of eyes so that
Yeah.
it looks like they're staring at predators, I believe.
That's
That's what they're for. 'Cause, yeah, I was looking at a lot of pictures of various cobras, and that's my understanding of them.
It looks like I might be able to fit this one on.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Let's see how it looks. Let's see.
Definitely can. There's a couple little hooks in there where I had like pinned it to her hair, so make sure you don't stab yourself.
Okay, I will try to be careful of that.
Yeah,
But...
she had a lot of hair, and we built it up and teased it. And then...
Oh, I can feel the pins, but just for a minute, I'm gonna. Yeah, sick. I feel it. I feel like a snack. I'm a sneaky snack. Look at me.
Ooh, there's a fun internet throwback.
Right? That's cool, man. That's very neat, Morgan. Holy crap. Here you go. So, let me just get my headphones back on here now.
Scribbling microphone. We're both problems.
Oh, I know. Ricardo, I'm very sorry. This is our first show and tell feature on the deficit here, so it's a work in progress. We'll figure out a more streamlined way to do this eventually. That's fucking really cool. So, what do you when you're making these things? What are you getting out of it? Like, is it like a meditation for you of some sort, of like the peaceful spot that you get to go to?
Truly, yeah. It depends. I mean, it's truly a mixture of just, this is something I enjoy doing. You get lost in it. It is kind of meditative for something that I get very angry at really quickly. Just an angry, furious meditation.
Sounds like golf.
It
Sounds a lot like golf.
Truly.
It's supposed to be peaceful and fun, but all you do is end up swearing at the grass and throwing your clubs.
Exactly like that. Yeah. So some of them, again, depending on how long it takes. This one, because it was something I had a deadline for. I had my own little personal sweatshop in my little basement suite of like my mother and my boyfriend and my roommate just cutting up tiny little chunks of hair, so I could glue them into like little scale shapes. Because I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. Like, I didn't come here to fuck around.
Yeah.
So like just cutting individual little scales and gluing them on, and realizing that, I'm gonna need hundreds of these. So yeah, they're very, very kind and nice enough to be my little slave labor for a night to do it. But yeah, usually it's just over the course of whenever I have time. With, having to do my regular boring job. So things like this might take like a couple weeks, just because it's do the base and then have to come back to it for a couple days.
Well, yeah,
so.
I mean, you're obviously finding the time to do it, so that's the important thing, right? The thing with the hair cobra thing is, like, I've just started to realize that it's scales made of hair, and I feel almost like if we weren't specifically talking about special effects makeup, I might think you were a serial killer. But it's
100%. I bless all my roommates and everything that I've had, because it is is truly some things that I do. They're like, what is wrong with you? Like, yeah, my one roommate that I used for school, again, I use just my guinea pig all the time. I had a big, again, amorphous monster type thing because those are the best things to do because there's nothing to. If you build something there's nothing to relate it to, you can't mess up. So that's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So the face that I made her was just a bunch of teeth, just in a big shape.
What?
Very, well, I'll call it what it is. It looked very vaginal, but just this big long mouth with like a bunch of teeth, and then just like exposed gums or skin for like the entire head, and things like that. Like she absolutely loved it. We were both theater kids. Like we met like in like theater programs and doing like some like little short films in like a little town we're at.
Cool.
So she was all about it. But it was terrifying, and she's like, this. What is wrong with you? But she took it off and kept it and put it in a frame, and she calls it Joan. It's still sitting in her house to this day. So, can't be too freaky.
Awesome. Joan. That's a good name for it. Holy. Man, I honestly think like we should do someday where like you come on here in like full costume. And we could like be like maybe like an alien podcast or something. It'd be like the Galactic Deficit or something. We just
I love that.
shoot the shit. We could make like an entire like a script almost. We'll script the whole thing as if it's like a talk show on some other fucking planet or something.
I love that. Just talk about what like planet Earth is up to.
Yeah, coming to you live from Zeta Reticuli 2, right? I'm Blork Morkborg, and this is my guest. Like, I don't know, random like Rick and Morty inspired alien names, which seem to have very little effort. It's always so funny listening to it. It's like Bork Bjorkensen, like yeah. That's really fucking neat, man. I like the amount of time it takes you to do this. It's just astounding, and like being able to manage it around your job is that's something I'm just not capable of. So like that must. Do you like do you write a schedule or anything for it or?
No, it's truly just whenever I have time. And classically, I feel like anyone who tells you who make things, you drastically underestimate the amount of time it'll take to do something. Because I have a penchant for doing things I've never done before because I get bored really easily, and I'm always just like, oh, I want to try this thing that I have absolutely no skill set in, but surely I can do it in a couple days. Why not?
Fuck yeah, man! Try again. That's how you learn, right?
Yeah,
that's very cool. So, where if you could end up working on anything, like say like another Star Wars film or anything like that. Oh wait, first actually speaking of movies and like special effects, makeup and stuff, I wanted to throw this out there. I don't. Have you seen the Dungeons and Dragons movie yet?
Yes.
My God. Like I have not seen a movie with that much practical effects that's not like an already built franchise in so long, and it was so refreshing to see. Like
it was fantastic.
It was like amazing. And Chris Pine is just he's always such a good choice. I've never seen him do anything bad,
100%.
Yeah.
He's one of those people you kind of just hate because you're like, how are you both funny and that hot? It's kind of like you got to leave something for the rest of us. But yeah, it was a fantastic movie, and yeah, the visuals. I mean, it's a big undertaking in general to take on Dungeons and Dragons.
Like even in the starting scene, they're like going to that a hearing for their pardon or whatever, and there's like fucking big dragon dude, and then Jarnathan, the Birdman who walks in, and it's all practical effects. It's
Loved
just
it.
Wild. I could not believe it. What do you think? Like, what do you think goes into making something with like with Jarnathan? There was obviously like mechanical wings, and like with that dragon guy, his jaw was moving and everything. Have you ever thought of like taking that step, making like some mechanical appendages or something that you can like, I don't know if you use it with like just like hand levers or something, but
100%.
Yeah.
I've always, just the idea of huge wings that you're able to move is just fantastic. Something I've always wanted to do, and there is a certain degree of engineering involved with that is way more than I think people realize. To be able to get things to move or have even just jaws that move, but to either have to do full like remote rigging for that, like full animatronics, or to have a jaw that's a foot long move on someone's tiny little jaw is a feat. And I always find that fascinating of just the mechanics of how something works. I always find fascinating.
Have you do you have any knowledge as to how they do that? Have you seen like how that works?
Yeah, so some of them it very much depends. So some of them, depending on like how big it is, usually the bigger the ones they'll have again, it varies greatly. I'm not sure specifically for Dungeons and Dragons because I should look into that one. But some of them will be full like robotics. That'll be remote controlled separately. That moves along. Some you have to build essentially affix it to a person's jaw and have a system that a smaller movement of your mouth equates to a much larger movement
Like
of
some
their,
kind of a little
essentially.
like pressure lever system or something.
Exactly like that. So while they're actually moving and talking, you get the whole like jaws moving. Yeah, and it can vary quite a bit. Some of them are just fully puppeted. So if it's just a full created head, there's not actually a human head in it wearing it, just like fully puppeted.
Wow.
So it can vary greatly, but depending on what they're trying to go for, right? How long the shot is, what the look is,
Yeah, yeah.
what
Didn't they
the
do that
function
with
is.
which one am I thinking of? Big Bird? Wasn't he like a guy with his hand up like
Yeah,
this, making his mouth talk, and then just the one arm was
I
working?
think so. Yeah.
Crazy. That's nuts. Wow. Well, if anybody's got the skills to be able to do it, you definitely seem like you've got all the needed requirements. That's for sure.
Thank you.
So, where have you thought about advertising and like getting into like an indie industry or like films or something like that with this? Or
I mean, I've thought of it. I did the film for like a little bit on like a much smaller scale, and even going to lunch McDonald's. Well, that's one of the things they kind of prep you for people who
Mhm.
want to go into film. And the small bit that I've done is a combination of God, film work is exhausting. Just super, super long days. And same thing,
Yeah.
the makeup department, makeup and
Oh.
hair is always the first thing that has to be done, but
Yep.
the last thing that people think about. So yeah, you're having to get there and start work at 2 a.m. That sounds miserable. And also doing things like special effects, at least from what I understand, it's a lot of, you have to work yourself up, especially in a place like this where you have a lot of overqualified people for
Mhm.
relatively small industries. You have, say, like prosthetic workshops like here in Vancouver that will make things for huge movies that have a total workforce of like 10 people.
Yeah.
And it's like you have a lot of talented people here that's like, oh, we haven't hired someone in 5 years, but like, sure, give us your resume. And if you're working your way up through film, as I understand, I've heard from people, it's a lot of, okay, you got to kind of pay your dues doing basic beauty makeup stuff for like 10 years to then hopefully get brought onto a team of doing special effects
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And to me, I was just like, I mean, in general, I just do it because I think it's fun. And yeah, these were just, like I said, born out of, either projects or Halloween or whatever. But I'm very much a person who likes to collect skill sets in
Mhm.
general. I was like, I don't know how to do that, but sure, I can figure it out.
Being a jack of all,
Figure it
it's
out.
very
Yeah, so
important.
I've made
Yeah.
like things for like Pride, for example. I made a big like eggplant shaped crossbody bag because I was like, I don't have a crossbody bag that's something small enough that's going to be working around something super busy like
Yeah.
Pride. And I was like, I just want one, so I'll figure out how to make it. So I like bought a sewing machine and figured out how to sew and like bought the
What?
stuff for it. And I was like, I just want to make a bag.
All for an eggplant.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like, so very extra.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But also worked well. I had taken like a couple months. I'd never had time off work before. I'd worked since I was like 13. And I was like taking a summer off. And I was like, well, what better time? Let's learn how to sew. Like I said, I was
Cool.
totally working out all the cosplay um, skills, basically.
Wow.
So I feel like once I delve into the world of cosplay, I think it's going to be a dangerous time for me. Because
Oh, I'm sure, but that might just be exactly what you need to be honest. Like that, it's such a huge community. Like there's
Mhm.
so many cosplay people out there, and the people who like not just the models, but like a lot of models do their own cosplay, but there's also people who just like make the costumes for specific models, and like
Mhm.
it's a whole world. Yeah, the Fan Expo. In case anybody doesn't know what Fan Expo is, it's kind of like Vancouver's version of the Comic Con. I mean, it's a different company, but same vibes, same idea. Maybe not quite as cool as San Diego Comic Con. I've never been to that, but I was pretty stunned by it all. They usually have actually like a roster of 8 to 12 really famous cosplay models and workers who come through it and like have like you can go do photo ops with them and stuff like that.
Oh, it's
It's
fun.
really neat.
Yes, you
Yeah.
can have like costume contests and stuff like that
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
That I always just find just fascinating that people, again, they put so much time and effort and money into things that just gonna show up here one day and kind of walk around, and that's very much my vibe.
Yeah, that's
I'll
cool.
just like make it last one night on Halloween, or just something that I have an idea of in my head that I'm just stubborn enough that I want to make it and get it out, and then I'll just take a photo of it, put it on Instagram, and then throw it in the garbage because I'm just like,
Really?
that's all I need.
Just toss
That's
it
all
in
I
the
wanted.
trash. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more just I just want to make something, and like I just get a little the equivalent of like an earworm. I don't know,
Yep.
something in my head where I'm just like I want that. I need to
Well, fuck,
I need
you
to
should
get it out.
almost I think there's still time to register for the cosplay contest there. Last year it was really cool. There was like a Mandalorian, there was all kinds of shit that came across that stage. And it's like it's a
Cool.
full on like big staged event, people walk across and like they hit their poses and stuff like that, and they walk over. But there's everyone from like people who just do special effects makeup to like full on. Your body's inside of this giant costume. Like there was a Gundam this year. It was like just like a full on mech suit walking across the stage. Do you ever play Legend of Zelda?
I used to, yes.
Okay, so there's the Kokorok or the Korok King. I don't know if you ever. He looks like a big. He's like a big tree character. It's not like it's not
Oh,
it's not
yeah.
like there's the Deku tree, but it's not the Deku tree. It's the Korok. He's like a
Oh,
big
I think I was
round
thinking of
guy.
Deku
Almost looks
Tree.
like a big piece of broccoli.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Okay. So
Yeah, I mean that would
this
be fantastic.
this yeah
Just
whoever it was
massive.
made this costume and like couldn't even see where they were going. They had to get helped up on stage, but they were like, I'm not exaggerating, like 6 feet wide by like probably 10 to 12 feet high. And like it was just a fully encompassing. You didn't know there was a person inside of this thing. It just looked like this big tree kind of guy walking on the stage. It was nuts. He almost fell off the stage trying to get off because he couldn't see where he was going. It was just like
Wow.
I don't know if he was on stilts inside of it too or whatever, but it was wild. Like just like the kind of stuff that goes on at those kinds of things. You really would be.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think those are your people over there. You should get over there. It's really
I think
cool.
so. I think I need to delve into that.
Yeah. Do you have anyone special in your life who like supports your hobbies?
Oh, definitely. Like my boyfriend, bless him, puts up with me making an absolute disaster of our place. I call it my crafter math. Whenever I just am in the middle or after making something and it's just completely take over an entire section of our bedroom or the kitchen, or we're lucky that the last couple places we've lived in, I sleep on the side of the bed that's like up against the window. So out of the walking area from
Yeah.
like the front door to like the ensuite bathroom or whatever. And it's just piled high with my shit, just various stuff. And our kitchen counter, luckily we moved into a place, not solely for this reason, but it did play into it of just how much space I take up. So I'll have stuff just sitting on the end of the kitchen counter. It's kind of a long island shape, in a classic Vancouver condo, just a very flat wall, open space kitchen. So I'll just take over the one end, and there'll just be piles of latex and weird broken baubles and shades of wire and just cut up
Crazy.
cloth and just random stuff. That's just it's a mess, but currently in the process of making things. So bless him for putting up with all of it because it's
Yeah.
a lot, and I'm aware that it's a lot.
Why don't you throw him a shout out?
Brian, thank you for not dumping me so far. I appreciate it.
That's wicked, man. So what are you working on now? You said you're working on something else already? Is that
Yeah, actually, I've over the summer, over Pride, I tried to see if I could make something that I could potentially sell, potentially make money off of. So I started dumping, like, let's just make just really gay little tank tops. And I ended up really liking it because I keep like making certain things like that eggplant bag that I had people be like, oh, like, where did you buy this? I like this. And be like, oh, I just made it. And they're like, I would buy it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. I love that. So I started and realized I hate making clothing, but the idea of trying to make something that people might want to buy, if it's just that, they don't have to worry about having it be custom or having it fit a certain way or having whatever, like
Yeah.
little bags or something. So I've actually been in touch with some like arts markets and stuff and being like, hey, what is the process if I just want to make some things and try to sell them here? What does that look like? So delving into that, because it's kind of the first time I've ever really tried to be like, I wonder if I could potentially make money if people want to buy something off stuff that I
I'm
make.
sure you could. There's a huge market for that kind of stuff, especially when it's like unique one-offs, like bespoke pieces, I guess you could call them, right?
I guess, yeah. And that's the kind of stuff I would love, of just make something that, again, for me, I'm always just, I have an idea, wouldn't that be fun? And figure out how to make it. And if I can just do, one-offs, it's like, you can buy it or not. Here you go.
Yeah.
I think that would be ideal because, I don't like people and don't like dealing with people. Don't like dealing with people when they have an input of what I want to make. That's the worst part, which I think is very classic. Anyone who creates stuff is,
Yeah.
that's the,
Introverted personalities generally tend to be very artistic in their spaces, right? And then like, the energy they would save from socializing with like people that they just don't have time for, it goes to making incredible things. My wife is one of those people.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. She makes some cool stuff. Not like this, obviously, but she did. We went to a gods and goddesses party a few months ago, and
That's
like she doesn't really make clothes by any means, but then she's just like, no, I can make these. And like next thing I know, like she made us like the Greek god and goddess outfits with like like a full chainmail, like a golden chain piece with like a shoulder thing. I don't know the words for these, but lots of gold and chain, and like she like stitched all the cloth together, like these nice white cloth. It was very revealing. I mean, it was not too bad. I felt sexier than I ever have when I was in that outfit, but it was pretty impressive, honestly. Like,
Great.
I've always been envious of people like that. Like, you guys are always just like, you look at something and you're like, no, I can do this myself. You just go and do it. It speaks a lot to having an independent spirit too. So that's. Have you found yourself in other aspects of life being kind of like, taking the Thanos route? Like, fine, I'll do it myself.
uh, Quite often.
Yeah?
Yeah. I find it's very. Yeah, I think it just kind of comes to plays with personality. So I think it kind of shows itself in a lot of different areas. Yeah, I'm kind of a solid right middle between extrovert and introvert. I
Yeah.
find I was like I'm perfectly fine being by myself, and I will just head down, make something for like 8 hours, and realize I haven't eaten today, and just be completely fine with it. Like during the first bit of COVID, when everything was kind of like shut down, I was like, oh well, what a better time? I'll just like make something, and had this again just weird idea of just wanting to make a big mushroom headpiece.
Big
and like
mushroom
this,
headpiece.
yeah, so it was again kind of mushroom themed. I was like, I just want like mushrooms kind of growing off me. Kind of similar idea to what you're
Oh yeah,
talking
yeah.
about that short film
Oh,
thing.
I saw that one on your Instagram page too. You got a right.
Yeah, so I was just like, I just have a visual in my head. And I'm like, I just got to get it out. And what better time? We're all fully locked down. So I just like started making it, and then I was in a small little basement suite, and my roommate at the time had gone back to visit her family, and then the kind of world shut down. So she's like, well, I guess I'll stay here for a bit. So I was just by myself in a little basement suite, and I had a little folding table that I was working on, and just to move things around, I'd set it in front of my front door, and then realized it had been 5 days during lockdown that I hadn't moved this goddamn table, and just I hadn't stepped outside my front
Oh
door
my
in
God.
5 days, just because I was just got down. I was like, well, if I want it this detailed and I have the time, when else am I going to have this actual little gift of time?
That was one of the gifts of COVID for sure. Was like everybody got to have some time off with like the things and people that they really like wanted to be around. It was like for a lot of people I know it was a real struggle, but I know for myself at least, and I guess you too, it really was a chance to like be able to like just connect with your hobbies and stuff again, and like be able to like really dive into that.
Exactly. Yeah, like of all the negative things you could talk about it, that first little bit when we were just like, we're not sure.
Yeah.
The world shut down. This is weird.
When they were still clanging the pans for the nurses and stuff, and not calling
100%.
them conspiracy theorists and shit. Like, just
100%. That little brief moment where they had respect for health figures. It was great. But yeah, very much. I just sat in a house for like 5 days, just carving little styrofoam balls into little mushrooms and like hand painting them to look like little mushrooms. And I was like, I've got all the time in the world. I'm going to make them as hyper realistic as I can.
Cool.
So, shit like that.
Holy shit.
I can be fully that, or I'm also fine just being extroverted and going out and seeing people and whatever. So I think for me that works great, of having that nice little balance. But
Wicked.
it can kind of depend. But yeah, usually when I make stuff, I always prefer it's for me anyway. So to not have people's outside input on it is kind of ideal. Which is why whenever you get into the foray of trying to make money off it, anytime you're wanting to make money, it has to have somebody else's opinion be part of it somehow.
Yeah,
typically
that is the trick there with those big studios. It's always got to have some executive producer who has no experience in the craft that you're crafting, being like, well, maybe it should look like this. Like take Ben Affleck's Daredevil, for example. Like, nobody fucking needed that. And
no one asked for it.
It could have been great. And it's just because the people with the money were like, no, I don't like the script. We're going to change it. Probably would have been great if they didn't have so much input with fucking money. It's always the money.
Always. Like, that's why I said, if you just do it out of a hobby and it's just something that you make on your own, it's just your money, just your input. And
yeah.
That's kind of been ideal. Like I said, I probably spend way more than I should on making things like this that ultimately you just take a picture and forget about. But, people spend obscene amounts of money on hobbies and collector things.
Yeah,
I'm just like, it's my money. I'll do what I
Well,
want.
look at fine food, for example. You go out for like an expensive steak or something. It's only something that you're going to be eating for like, a half hour if you make it last too, right? Like,
yeah.
With me, if I get like a good piece of food in front of me, it's fucking gone in 2 minutes. I will not talk to anybody. I'll just be stuffing my face the whole time. But like, it's, you remember that experience, and like it's kind of, it lights something in you, like to be able to create things and like remember that you did that. It's a reminder of your capabilities and like the the ability to just like do it yourself. It must make you feel like, and this might be a false assumption, but I would assume this kind of helps you to feel more capable and independent as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think everything that you kind of start and complete
Mm-hmm.
that's completely independent from something that here's my end goal, I want to get it. Every time you complete something like that, I feel like you always get that little bit of a sense of accomplishment, and I've finished it. I feel like that's always a double-edged sword with anything artistic related because you always find the flaw in everything. It's never like, oh, I'm fully just proud of that. No, it's never. Absolutely not. Be like, here's 1,000 things I would change about it. But you still completed it and still did it. And it's like, well, great. Perfect. Move on to the next thing.
Fucking cool, man. Next year, it's too bad we couldn't get you on. Like, we didn't meet like before, like early enough before Halloween or something, because it would be really cool to like do this same sort of thing, but like with both of us having like some crazy costumes that you've designed. That'd be really sick. Have you ever thought of like collaborating with other people, like as far as like maybe you do like the mask and like the special effects stuff, and have someone else create like a costume for it, like fabrics and stuff?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'd be super fun. I'd love any kind of, especially like low stakes collaboration. I
Mm-hmm.
think would be fantastic. I just don't know too many people that make stuff like that. I know a lot of like
Yeah.
various creative people in my life, but not anything that would kind of mash up that
Yeah.
way, I guess. 'Cause I'm always under the assumption that just creativity and art, whatever you want to call it, everyone has a certain function of that just because people typically associate tangible things like this as
Mm-hmm.
being your art, your creativity. People who are, you know, designing code for something, or even in, working in healthcare, surgery, that's a very fine artistic skill set in my opinion. So it's kind
Yeah.
of, you find that in every bit of life. So people are like, "Oh, I wish I was artistic." It's like, we can be. You just need to, like, your definition of art is pretty narrow then if you feel like you're not.
Your attitude, it definitely syncs up with exactly the message that we're trying to get across here with the Omnia Theater, is that creativity is a universal concept for everybody, not just what you would typically define as an art form. Like
Mhm.
a mechanic, for example, even like even like to be able to problem solve and adapt any of that stuff. It's all a form of creativity in itself. I
Mhm.
mean, you said it right the first time. Being a nurse, even, like, holy shit, everybody's body is completely unique, right? And even though there's like a set standard of like what dosages to give like certain weights of people and stuff like that, it all really does come down to like how well the nurse can understand how this person's body works in such a
Mhm.
short period of time too. Like my brother's an RN. You met Benny at the
Mhm. Yeah.
party there. He's like apparently he's I didn't know they had like a ranking system or whatever for people in medicine, but from what I
Yep.
hear, um he must get good reviews or something. Like I don't know if there's a nurse Yelp or some shit, but apparently he's doing quite well in his field and is highly regarded now. So and he tells me he always gives me these horror stories about his work. Like there's a reason I work in film. It's because none of it's real. Like I can't deal with the reality of life. I no,
Mhm.
a little bit of any bodily fluids, most of them at least. I will be on the floor, passed out. Like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah, I took all the medical training when I was younger to be a lifeguard and everything, and found out very quickly that that situation's just way too real for me. And I don't want to have to do that unless I'm the only one there who has to do that. Otherwise, I have no problem playing in the land of make believe. It's like much easier.
Fair enough. I feel like most of life is just figuring out what you don't want to do.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a process of elimination, right? And whatever you have left is probably, what you are. It's kind of, yeah.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
just slowly weaving your way into a path. Ooh, not that, not that, not
Yeah.
that. So I guess I'll go over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and especially with like healthcare stuff too. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know there was like a ranking system.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
So
know.
that's
Don't quote me on that. I
fantastic.
don't know if it's necessarily a ranking system, but he has disclosed to me that he is recognized as a high performing person in his field. And I don't know how they
Hmm.
do that with nursing. I know with doctors, there's like studies that they lead and treatments that they can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe I should just pay more attention to his line of work and be a little more respectful of him.
Maybe you should take an interest in your family. I
Maybe
don't
I
know.
should. I'm pretty bad for that. I love all of you guys, and I'm sorry. I really am. Yeah, he's a great kid, and he's not a kid anymore. He's 27. What am I saying? He's a
I
great.
mean, that's still a child. You're in your
Yeah,
20s. It's fine.
yeah. He's a good man. He's um, But yeah, it's really something when you start to actually think about the concept of creativity and all that. That's why I was saying before, our founder here at the Omnia Theater, Ryan, he's got his podcast called The Creative Conversations.
Mhm.
And lately, like, I've been getting a lot of creative people on, which is kind of my intention as well. But I'm also trying to like find more people in like certain like professions and aspects. I want to kind of put more of a highlight on like the people who keep the country running and like things like that. Like you remember like Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe? Did you
Oh
ever watch that?
yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to do something like that where like I can highlight the average people of like the place we live and like be able to show the um transcendent qualities in them rather than just
Hmm.
the job but the human inside of them, right? And I think the approach with creativity is a great way to do that. And so you saying those things about like how it's not just about being traditionally like what people would typically refer to as an artist or what people think being creative means on like a that stigmatized version of it, to actually have that understanding. It says a lot about you, and it's really it's pretty refreshing to hear that too, because I feel like there's been almost like an awakening happening with our generation and like the one after us, millennials and Gen Z or whatever. That is kind of helping to push that a bit more. Like, you know, you're
Mhm.
finding people in the trades and stuff who are um not in the trades anymore because they feel like they just need to be a working man, but because it does actually satiate like a creative side for them. Like,
Mhm.
you know, like being a finishing carpenter, I did that for a little while, and like, you know, being able to create things that you can look at every day and be like, wow, I made that. Like, it really is something. But I guess like when it comes to the medical industry, being able to like imagine you see someone walking on the street, like I saved that person's life a few weeks ago. That must be really something too, right? Like that's got to be a
Mhm.
pretty cool vibe. If you had an idea of um what would Morgan be doing if they could have any job in the world working in any industry? Like actually, you know what? I'm going to refine that. What franchise, like be all and end all of all the big movie franchises out there and stuff, which one would you want to find yourself in if it was to be doing this special effects makeup?
Oh.
And I'm gonna be hard here and say I got to round it down to one. It can be a whole universe. It doesn't have to be a specific movie, but
Hmm.
that realm.
I mean, I could just fully cop out and just say the MCU. Just that
Yeah.
encompasses like what, 500 movies at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, honestly, things like that would probably give you the most option. Um, I mean, that is like Lord of the Rings as well. Like I said, it's wrapped up. It's
Hmm.
obviously finished, but it's one of the ones that is production wise, creative wise, everything that went into it, probably one of the most impressive and largest ventures that have been done
It's amazing. Yeah.
before. So, you know, to be part of that on such a scale would be like
So
super
Lord of the
interesting.
Rings or
Probably.
MCU or Star Wars. Just trying to
We were
confuse you.
thinking, depending on how I want to, if I'm thinking practically, MCU, because I feel that's going to be going for 150 years from now. Like they're just
Yeah.
going to keep beating that horse as much as they possibly can. So I feel like
Yeah,
that's
it
job
seems like
security.
the horse only has one leg left and they're still beating the shit out of it as it is.
Oh, it's hamburger at this
Yeah.
point,
Oh,
but you know,
yeah.
it's fine. They're still making money off of it, so all the power to you.
Yeah, that's I guess that's Disney for you, hey? They just keep milking it. So MCU then?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. Cool.
Yeah.
Which one of the
MCU.
MCU characters do you think would have been the most fun to work on designing?
Oh, I don't think they've done a recent iteration of it, but in Fantastic Four, the Thing, just
Oh
that
yeah.
full rock
Hell
body
yeah. That's
character,
fucking yeah, dude.
like would just be so fun.
Yeah.
Again, I just love just outlandish. It's massive. There's one that looked really similar in I think it was one of the Thor movies.
Korg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, with that
Yeah.
fantastic
Oh, I
accent.
love
Looked really
Korg.
similar, but
Yeah.
yeah, just those full body, something that's practical, and you're just like, what the hell am I looking at? Those are my favorite.
That's Taika Waititi voicing him, eh? The
Is it?
yeah, that's he voices
Oh,
Korg.
okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's such a great character. Yeah, it's just yeah. It's for the revolution. Like he just like
Yeah.
that would have been yeah, the Thor series is it started out pretty like meh, like mid, but then when that third one came out, what was it?
Was it Ragnarok? Was that the third one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ragnarok. That was just it just knocked it up a whole other level. And then like it seems like
Yeah.
it's just been carrying the franchise almost since then. Like
100%. I mean, Marvel found, as far as those movies go, the perfect formula for this much humor, this much action, like this much heart, this much storytelling.
Yeah.
And they figured it out, and they've just been riding that for a while. Where it's like, I mean, you could either take that as getting stagnant after a while, but it's great.
I
Like the
think
humor
it's
involved is fantastic.
like that's the thing they had like with especially with those like original like I can't believe I was gonna say this those first 23 movies, like they definitely had like a good formula, and I think it was like they kind of you don't see it as much now with the way they maybe it's in the writing, but like the hero's journey is much more accentuated in like those 23 films than it is in anything they've released since that Infinity War saga ended. You know,
Mhm.
like it's like you see a lot more flaws in the character and you see them through these different sequences moving to improve on themselves and grow.
Mhm.
And it almost seems like with these latest ones, they just skip right ahead and the hero is just perfect already. Like
Mhm.
I know everyone's been ragging on it, but like Captain Marvel, for example, there's not exactly a lot of like depth in the character. You don't see a lot of her
Yeah.
shortcomings or her fallouts, and it's not Brie Larson's fault. Everyone's hating on Brie Larson because they think she's like stone faced and
Mhm.
can't act. Write a script that she can actually act
Give
for.
her some emotion, and
Yeah,
then maybe she'll be able to look less
exactly.
stone
Don't just
faced.
make her this like flawless superhero that like doesn't understand what humans are. Like it's just
Yeah.
it really like they've kind of lost track. I think they feel like it's all about the special effects and the action sequences when like what really drew people in was the stories, you know, like
100%. Well, most people love the earlier iterations of something, or because I think with Marvel the thing is scale. They just keep trying to build up the scale every movie, and when
yeah.
you're dozens of movies in, that's why people love the initial ones so much, is because the scope is so much smaller. The
Yeah.
story is so much smaller. You look at, like a Spider-Man movie, and it's like, oh, the origin story has so much more depth to it. Once he's been Spider-Man for 10 years and he's just perfected, and now he's, got his own spaceship, or, Stark shit or whatever. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's not as interesting. There's no more story there because it's all about the big thing they're trying to fight is the story, not the person doing the fighting.
Yeah.
And because the scale is just so large, oh, we're saving the world again. Great, we have to save the universe now.
Yeah,
And it's kind of, where
then
do
they
you
save
go
the
from
universe.
there?
Now it's like, oh, there's a multiverse. It's like I gotta like
Literally, they had to expand universes
Yeah.
because they ran out of plot points.
Yeah.
Like that is to the point of like, people like the small scale. They like the origin story, which I think
Yeah.
is where that one kind of fell short. Like Captain Marvel fell short a little bit of just like they're keeping that huge scale, that huge grandiose type story in an origin story that you're like, you can't really have both. That's kind of the whole point of an origin story, is that
Yeah.
it's small.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like it said, there's a reason like Spider-Man being the most marketable superhero out there. I think Batman finishes close second, but he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's not a guy who can
exactly.
pull planets behind him with a big chain like they did with Superman back in like the 70s or whatever.
Mhm.
It's like he's got some cool powers, but he's not like a planet destroying level guy. He swings on webs and he stops robbers and bad guys. And there's a couple
Mhm.
other cool bad guys who are kind of on the same level as him. It's not some intergalactic like space opera like they tried to make it. Even though arguably Guardians of the Galaxy was, in my opinion, like the best space opera since like the first iteration of Star Wars. Like
I
it's
agree.
fucking amazing. When that first one came out, no one knew who they were either. And like they just rocked it. Like all the characters, and the same thing, like they're flawed and there's like a growth
Mhm.
journey happening. And like the body makeup that they did for Batista to be Drax was so friggin' cool. Like it was
So
like
good.
3D tattoos practically.
Yeah.
You know, like
Exactly. And the amount of time that must have taken.
oh god.
Insane.
Yeah.
But it pays off so well. And having things that are practical like that, I think, makes something that has humor in it a lot easier,
Yeah.
because you have actors emoting, you have the little jokes, the little quips, whatever, that's not kind of covered up by CGI, which I feel like it can lose it quite a bit, as good as CGI is now. But yeah, that series really delved into this is the funny, nerdy side that we're going
Yeah.
to bring up, not necessarily huge, grandiose as much. Obviously, it was still there, but character-wise, was
Yeah.
fantastic.
It was like, and like everyone else that came before that, like before Guardians of the Galaxy, is like almost every Marvel movie, people knew who the characters were and stuff, right? And then they were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. I had to Google this because I didn't read much comics when I was younger. I watched a lot of the cartoons though, And
Mhm.
like I was always a big fan of superheroes and stuff, but I'd never heard of Guardians of the Galaxy or Star-Lord or Drax the Destroyer or any of that, or Groot. Like what the
Yeah.
like this big tree
Groot.
man who just says his name over and over again, and it just blew everyone away. It got like crazy good reviews. I think a big part was the soundtrack too, though, because like
Oh
fuck,
yeah.
man, was that like just such a vibe? The whole movie was just a bop. It was basically a
Yeah.
space opera, right? Like it felt like it was like its own big musical piece in a sense. When he's like journeying through that cave, kicking the little lizards out of the way and stuff.
Yeah.
Back from the break, we were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I realized that we actually missed one of my favorite pieces from Morgan. It is this lovely flower head thing here. You should see it on his Instagram page. It looks really cool when it's all applied. What was your inspiration for this? Was it you just wanted to be a flower? Or?
I purely just wanted to turn my head into a flower.
Cool.
There's nothing more than that.
I could almost see this being in Guardians of the Galaxy as like a random like passerby that they meet or something. There were so many like abstract type alien people on that it was like it would just make sense, honestly.
I was like, aliens are the best for that because it's purely we have no idea. Like, so
Yeah,
it could be anything.
yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, it's the easiest to, like I said, carte blanche, just to do whatever you want.
Carte blanche, yeah. You know what? Honestly, I don't know that I am entirely sure of. Does that just mean seize the day sort of thing, like carpe diem? in
I
a
believe
sense,
it's
or-
French for blank check.
Blank
So it's
check.
just like open to do whatever you want with. I
Cool.
believe. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good attitude to have towards life in general. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, very neat. So, with this whole thing here, when you had this on, what did you do? You ever feel like you're a part of some world that you've imagined in your head when you wear these characters?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It depends. Like for ones like this, is I kind of just did a headpiece, and that was about it. Again, it takes a long time to get into some of them. Like this one, for example, I cut up a bald cap and then use that to blend so it looks seamless. So it was like actually looks like it was part of my head or growing out of it. And then this one, this big light up one, definitely took like about 4 hours to get into, but it had a full costume and it's for Halloween.
Yeah.
And so for that, you have a lot of time to kind of slowly get into the fantasy of
Yeah.
like get into the character a little bit and enjoy it a little bit more. This one was more just it didn't take too long because I made the headpiece is just like craft like dollar store foam, just cut and heat formed. I made it in like a day, I think, and then the next day put it on, took a photo, and got rid of it. So it's kind of just I just want this visual. Like,
Cool.
so it very much depends on the
which
I'm
one
doing.
would you say is more satisfying to make? Do you like making the spooky ghoul stuff more, or the like the pretty flower people things and
Always a spooky one.
the spooky stuff?
Anything that's just the creepier looking, the better.
Wicked,
Yeah.
wicked. I got a friend. His name's Cody. He does a little. He started a podcast a little while ago where he reviews and talks about horror films and stuff like that. I think I should link you two up because I think you'd have some really good chats. I personally like. I'm a bit of a pussy. Scary movies not exactly for me. I'm not exactly in the. I don't find the idea of being terrified fun, and maybe that's just because I am a big pacifist and a pansy. But I can understand it from other people. Like Cody is a very deep fan of all things horror. So yeah, I think we should probably connect you two. He'd probably love to do that. And he does write he's got some scripts written and stuff. So
Oh,
at
nice.
some point, we might need to enlist your skills because fuck, man, this is a lot of really cool stuff. Thank you very much for coming on and like sharing it all with us.
Yeah.
Usually in the show, I start off by saying we're here to stimulate your own attention deficit with good chats, life hacks, and everything in between. So I would like to ask you, do you have any life hacks that kind of help you to stay on task or like live your life at an optimal level? Something that you do that you find really helps you to just carry on with your motivations and momentum throughout a day?
Mm. I mean, it very much depends on what I'm doing. Certain
Okay.
things I am bad for that, trying to find that motivation to get through like work or something that you don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
For stuff like this, if you relate it to something that you genuinely have an interest in, you will naturally prioritize it for
Cool.
me. So whatever aspect you want to get out of whatever that creative thing might be, if that's what you focus on, it kind of comes naturally. It's not work or some sort of hack
Mhm.
to kind of focus on it. So for me, mine is I very much like to learn some sort of new skill, is usually the case.
Yeah.
My nature is kind of like, I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure it out, and that's part of the fun
Do,
of just the making.
do you find like learning about these new skills with your special effects makeup and stuff? Do you find that helps you to better handle other aspects of your life outside of your creativity?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I think, and like my work life and personal life, for example, it's kind of been like all over the place as far as like work wise goes. Um and I've had skills, like I worked in like mental healthcare for like the last like few years, and the problem solving skills and the kind of natural inclination to figure out how things work and think of something as a whole, I feel like very much translates very well into that in your social interactions, when dealing with tense situations with people, with your partner, with work, if you're dealing with like mental health and suicide stuff that I've done for
Hmm.
years. It Having that kind of more global mindset about it without getting too drawn into, oh, we're having a fight about something, or someone's really stuck on something, and being able to, yeah, keep your viewpoint a little more wide. I feel like that translates very, very well to other aspects of life, but it's, like I said, kind of born out of having a natural interest and building those skills on something that I enjoy doing. So,
Cool. Very cool. I just want to touch quickly on you did have a long career. Are you still at that same call center?
no, not anymore. That was the summer that I took off. I
Yeah,
needed
yeah.
a little bit of a break. It
Y-
was,
I bet it was stressful.
yeah,
Do you mind talking about that a little bit while we have some time?
sure,
So
yeah.
you handled a suicide crisis hotline is what you were dealing with?
Largely, yeah.
That
So,
must have been very stressful. Um,
yeah.
and thank you for the work. That is a lot of times people just need a voice, and like picking up that phone and dealing with that and showing compassion to those people it's really above and beyond. I personally have some experience with well, depression and stuff, but and some friends that I knew back in the day did end up taking their own lives. But my mom, uh, Sylvia, I love you. Um, Thank you so much for raising me. She used to work back in my hometown at this place called the Kamloops Sexual Assault Counseling Center, and
Mm.
she ran a crisis hotline for domestic violence victims and sexual assault victims and suicide. And she
Oh,
used to
nice.
be up at all hours of the night. I remember being like just getting up to get a bowl of cereal around like midnight, 1 in the morning, any given day of the week, and she'd be in the den or office in my the house I grew up in with somebody dealing with a crisis of that sort. And I always admired the strength it takes to really do that day in and day out. That must really weigh on the soul, and to be able to have an outlet for that. Um, it must have been. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it must have been difficult to let that go after you. Like you can't just clock out from that kind of a thing, right? Like you find that it was hard to
Mhm.
like let go of that mental load after that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of
Yeah.
the reasons I kind of stepped away. It wasn't something I'd ever had an interest or direction of getting into.
Hmm.
It was kind of like a lot of people. I found myself without a job after COVID, and was looking at a very struggling healthcare system. And there were some openings. People just needed help. It was through, people aren't familiar with British Columbia, Canada, 811 as like a medical information line.
Yep.
And their kind of structure of the load that they were under was essentially, they were about 500, 700 calls a day, like from 2019 to up to 5,000 calls per day within the span of a couple weeks. So they just desperately needed some people for answering like COVID information, and they
Yeah.
kind of became the go-to for the province's information on everything COVID. So it was full on businesses being like, when am I going to be able to open back up? Or like, ooh, what's the protocol to follow if someone had COVID? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I started, just because I was like, well, I don't have a job. They're needing some help. It's some small way to feel like I might contribute to the chaos that's happening. And then from there, stayed with them for a couple of years of just slowly moving into what they call like specialty calls, and moving into yeah, like mental health and like suicide calls, BC ambulance, things like that, and kind of transitioned over that way. And yeah, it was something that I was like, oh, didn't seek that out in any way. Just something I happened to have a penchant for, I guess, and did all right with it. And yeah, after like a few years of doing that, it was kind of a like, ooh, it's coming home at the end of the day and just being, I don't want to talk to anybody,
Hmm.
and don't want to have to deal with more issues. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't want to. It's hard
Yeah.
to. I can leave the individual interactions alone. That was always kind of fine with that. I just kind of joke, be like, I'm heartless, it's fine, so you can just like, don't have to worry about it, leave it there. But yeah, just the kind of mental and emotional exhaustion that came along with it, kind of affecting other part of life. I'm like, I need to
Yeah.
like, it was never my intention anyway, so I need to find something else for it. And yeah, just like had been working since I was 13 and never had a break, so I was like, great, I'm gonna take a couple months off and just kind of delve into something I want to do. And
That's good, man. Healthy
take a break.
selfishness is what my family would say. My
Exactly.
dad used to use that term a lot. It's knowing when to just do something for you, no matter what or who it's going to affect. You gotta just sometimes you gotta put yourself first. And
Healthy
that's
selfishness. I like that. That's
yeah.
a
I
good
mean,
term for it.
it's a good thing. We seem to be a lot of people are very okay, are very over cautious of that sort of thing about seeming too selfish and taking time for themselves, but it's important.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. So I just I want to thank you for that because like it takes a very giving spirit to be able to like handle that every day in and day out. I know you say like it's no problem leaving the individual talks at home, but I'm sure the emotions must have weighed at some points, right?
Mhm.
If there is anything that you would like to say to the general public about that issue, I feel like it's an important one. Um, any bits of advice that you might be able to toss out our way?
Uh, Honestly, things are way more common, and there's a lot more resources than people think. I
Okay.
think is a big one. A large function of that job was giving resources, and there's even more than I do before starting there. There's a lot more resources than people think are available, and a lot of things that people historically have had, I guess, shame in admitting to struggling with are far more common, and it's just
Yeah.
inherent that people don't particularly talk about it. And yeah, there can be a lot of comfort in that because it's typically one of the most difficult things to struggle with, depending on what it is, any kind of mental health stuff. And yeah, kind of being more open and talking about it's kind of the general like the more we talk about mental health and normalize things, which
Yeah.
is definitely societally moving that way.
We'd rather our
Um,
friend cry on our shoulder than go to their funeral.
exactly,
Yeah.
100%. I think people are in general much more moving towards that way. But yeah, depending on where you live, typically there are a lot more resources available than one would think. So it's
Cool.
worth looking into because chances are there's something available there to help.
Thank you, Morgan. Thanks for bringing your amazing special effects headpieces on and stuff. I can't wait to see what the next one is that you have in mind coming up. I'm actually really excited about it. Anybody that you would like to give a shout out to, be sure to throw your social media handle up here if you want people to check out your work and stuff like that. But also, any tidbits of advice or a cool little catchphrase, look at this camera, say whatever you want to say.
Oh, no pressure at all. Come up
Yeah.
with a catchphrase on the spot. Um, I guess we'll start with the easy one that I know. My social media is just Morgan Michael Makes. Michael is spelt wrong because I don't know how to spell. It's Micheal. Because I spelt my name wrong for years growing up, and didn't. My dad's name is Michael, and didn't realize I was spelling it wrong for years. So I eventually just ordered a new birth certificate with that name because I've been had my
Awesome.
passport, everything the wrong name. So yeah, Morgan Michael Makes on Instagram. It's where I just post my weird hobbies and endeavors. Beyond that, honestly, like I said, anyone who says they are not creative, I wholeheartedly disagree with you in the most loving way. Um, yeah, alter your opinion of what you find creative and enjoy the creativity that you envy in other people because it's a very freeing thing. So enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you.
See you guys next time with another episode of the deficit. Sorry about that. I'm experiencing my own deficit right now. Catch us on another episode. I hope to see you guys then. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you then. Peace.
Take me away, as far away from here. Lead me home to to the place where I'm not alone. Sleep, little child, waltz in my arms. Lay down your head and rest your weary heart. I feel you, your essence among the wind. Kiss my back, and I'll love you until we can't. In the shadows of the rain, a deadly kiss will mask the pain. As we grow up, leave our childhood, life will never be the same.